Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're jumping back into Venom. And for this one, we're covering issues 11 and 12. Because I think it'll make a lot more sense this way rather than just giving you guys like a cliffhanger. And also because I just can't wait to talk about Dylan and his process of evolution and changing names, much like his father. So with that being said, let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so for this one, we're jumping back in right after the reveal of the identity of Meridius, only for us to then find out about the numerous stages that Eddie Brock would go through before becoming Meridius. And with how this was done, the Eddie Brock that we know, who we've been following from the beginning, he had to watch a future version of himself kill his son. And it's here we find that the attack that went through Dylan's heart, figuratively and literally, it didn't kill Dylan right away, but it's with this one where we pick up with Dylan and we see where that's taken him. Because when this happened, Dylan's body was left just outside of Jake's bar in Baywater, which not long after was picked up by the Life Foundation, who had then patched Dylan up after he lost a lot of blood. And it's here we find that Dylan's actual physical condition is that he's clinically brain dead, with the Life Foundation stabilizing his body, only to find that Dylan has no brain activity. But throughout the process of the Life Foundation taking Dylan's body, they ran into Sleeper for a brief moment, who had slowed them down, but eventually they decided to let Sleeper go so that they can take Dylan back to their facility. But as far as the Venom symbiote, who's top priority for Carlton Drake, he had called for them to do a lockdown around the area because he knows that what happened had weakened the Venom symbiote and this is their best opportunity to get it. But when we then jump over to the Venom symbiote, who at this moment in time is weakened and hiding away in the sewers, but it's here where we find that the Venom symbiote didn't just leave Dylan, but instead, because it was weakened and Dylan was swiftly dying, it had instead taken Dylan's consciousness and fled with it in hopes that this would in some way increase the chances of Dylan's survival. But with doing this, this effectively made the Venom symbiote the host for Dylan. But at this time, with Dylan's consciousness inside of the Venom symbiote, this world, so to speak, that Dylan finds here, to him, this seems like a place that's very familiar, almost like the memory of a name that he had forgotten. But with Dylan getting here, he has no clue if he's been here for ages or just for seconds. But he notices that the structure that he sees looming in the distance, that it seems the most familiar, so he makes his way down to get closer, only to then quickly find out that he is not alone here. And though at this time he's not certain what these things are, but within them he can sense their malevolence, their rage, and their violence, which all seem very familiar to him. But after a brief moment of fighting them off, he is then met by someone who refers to themselves as the Keeper. And as the Keeper approaches, he tells Dylan what exactly these things are, as he sends them away and they leave Dylan alone. But the Keeper then goes on to say that these are all impulses, desires of rage and violence, and fragments of hunger that are just littered throughout this whole place. But with the Keeper showing up, Dylan first asks how long has he been here, and the Keeper responds saying that Dylan hasn't been here that long, but as for himself, the Keeper, he's been here way too long. But with saying this, he goes on to tell Dylan what this place is, by asking Dylan if he knows the meaning of Clintar, which of course means cage. But just after this, we then jump over to Sleeper, because after his run-in with the Life Foundation, he had then made his way over to see Archer Lyle, who, like we'd seen before, was the old friend of Eddie, but not really friend, who we had seen before turned Dylan over to Alchemax. So of course, with Sleeper coming here to meet her, she's kind of on edge. But with Sleeper finding her by tracking her pheromones, he lets her know that he's aware that she regrets the decision that she made, and with him telling her that the Life Foundation now has Dylan, Sleeper is more or less giving her the opportunity to do something right. But with coming here, Sleeper lets her know that he has everything planned out, and all he really wants from Archer Lyle is for her to run interference when the time is right, so that Sleeper can then go in and get Dylan's body. Because prior to this, Sleeper has already left a part of himself with a suitable host by the name of Hank Hensley, who also is a good friend of Flash Thompson, who we had seen not too long ago during the Extreme Carnage event when Sleeper had bonded to Hank in order to keep him safe, which at the time was a good thing that Sleeper did, because if he didn't, Hank would no longer be with us right now. But as it turns out, with Sleeper leaving a part of him with Hank, as a bit of a sleeper agent if you will, and doing so at the time for Hank's protection, both during Extreme Carnage and even after in case someone came back for Hank. But at this time now, with them needing to save Dylan, Sleeper sees no other choice but to use Hank one more time. But at this point, back over with Dylan, in Venom World, the Keeper reveals himself to be a memory of Eddie Brock, and it's here where he tells Dylan that they don't have much time to waste because Dylan's body is out there somewhere and it's dying, so he needs to get back to it quick, and the Keeper lets Dylan know that the only way out of here is inside of that large, familiar structure that Dylan had initially noticed when he got here. And with seeing this, Dylan asks the Keeper what's inside, and the Keeper tells him, Venom. But for Dylan to make it through, he's gonna have to understand the truth. Because for Dylan's consciousness to even be here, inside of a symbiote's mindscape, it should be impossible with the way that it was done. Because the only similar instance I can think of, it would have to be Carnage. But with him, that was a very unique case that included perfect symbiosis, as well as Cletus being bonded to the Carnage symbiote, and only the Carnage symbiote for such a long time. Or even the ways that we'd seen Eddie navigate during King in Black through Knull's hive, since he had been bonded to the Venom symbiote longer than anyone has been bonded to any symbiote ever. But now, what we've seen here for Dylan, the Venom symbiote was able to just snatch him out of his body, after bonding with him for what at this point has been over the course of weeks. So that's nuts. But it's also here where the Keeper lets Dylan know that he's been here from the beginning, standing guard in front of this cage to keep the monster contained within, because he's also the keeper of Eddie's secrets, who at this point he's tired of his job and he's ready for Dylan to relieve him. So naturally, for Dylan to get to Eddie's secrets, he has to get past the Keeper, which from there will relieve the Keeper of his duties, but then also reveal to Dylan the secrets that have been locked away, because within those answers also lies Dylan's ticket out of here. But immediately for Dylan, with him fighting the Keeper, who is effectively Eddie's memory, who also happens to look exactly like Eddie, to Dylan at first it feels like he's fighting his dad, so of course he doesn't want to do it. But the fact of the matter is, Dylan will never get to the truth up there if he can't face the truth down here, because the fact of the matter is, at this layer, the Keeper expresses that Eddie believes that everything that Dylan is going through is his fault, because he told Dylan to bond with the symbiote, and from the time that Eddie had met Dylan, he'd raised him to be too naive to question his choices, and in the full scope, Eddie's past and his future, they're closing in on Dylan. And at this point right now, he's just not ready to deal with it. And it's when Dylan hears this, he fights back by slicing right through the Keeper's chest and effectively passing this test. But with doing so, Dylan then asks, why are you doing this? Why are you making me do this? But really with Dylan defeating the Keeper, this is more so him finishing one stage that'll take him from here to the next steps. Because from here, the Keeper asks Dylan, like, are those the questions that you really want to ask your father? And right there, Dylan opens up and he asks, why did you leave? Before all of this, when you got your powers, you knew what you were becoming. Why didn't you stay? Wasn't I important enough? And it's here where the Keeper pulls in Dylan's blade and finishes his job. And he lets Dylan know that he doesn't have all the answers. And sometimes the only answers that you get are the ones that you figure out for yourself. But that path begins with stepping out of the shadows that fall so darkly upon you. We all must overcome our fathers, one way or another. And the Keeper goes on to tell Dylan that maybe Eddie Brock leaving had nothing to do with you. Maybe Eddie's the fool who needs saving. And it's from here where the Keeper then starts to break down and bond with Dylan, letting him know that he is the Keeper now. And he tells Dylan that when he goes up there, don't be afraid, because it knows that Dylan is the new Keeper, and it knows the truth about who they both are. And it's from here where Dylan then starts to make his way up so that he can find the truth, find his way out of here, and then go after his father. But I also gotta say, with Dylan becoming the Keeper and getting this red logo on his chest, it kinda reminds me of something, but I'ma save those thoughts for the end of the video. But it's just after this where we then make our way to the Life Foundation Medical Research Hub, where we had just seen Dylan's body. But at this point, with Carlton Drake telling Spearhead, who we've seen a few times throughout the series, to move Dylan's body from this facility to another, and it's here where Sleeper steps in, kinda like, nope, I'll be taking that. And it's here where Sleeper schools Spearhead, who tries to stop him at first by having his men shoot flamethrowers at Sleeper, but he stops that right away with a fast hardening, fire-resistant polyurethane. But just after that, Spearhead follows up with a spear, which we had seen to be effective before. But the thing that Spearhead doesn't yet realize is that symbiotes are infinitely stronger with a host than they are without one. And I love how this is done, because Sleeper, he then grabs Carson. He looks him in the eye and he tells him that I'm the most powerful symbiote that you've ever met. And when I seen that, I was just like, talk that talk, Sleeper, because to this day, there are adventures that Sleeper has had in outer space that we still don't know about. And really just going on what we have seen Sleeper do, I wouldn't argue that he's in that top 5 as far as most powerful symbiotes ever. Top 5. But then it's also here where Sleeper tells Spearhead to not ever come after the boy again. To where then he tells Spearhead, oh, there's another thing you didn't know I could do. Which really I don't think I knew either. And it's here where Sleeper tells him that it's self-assembling remote resonant ectoplasm, which Sleeper had used to copy himself this whole time, while the real version of Sleeper with the host was just a few feet away grabbing Dylan. And it's here where we see Sleeper get Dylan's body in a chopper to make his way back to Baywater so he could find Venom. But after this, we then jump back to Dylan's consciousness, where at this point he's made his way into the cage that kinda has a Fortress of Solitude vibe to it. I'm just saying. But when Dylan gets here, he's met by the voice of Venom, who tells Dylan that the truth is like a mirror. And it's here where he says to Dylan, "So tell me, Dylan Brock, who are you?" And initially Dylan's like, "I am Venom?" Like he's not really sure. And it's here where he gets the response, "No, not just yet." And then Venom tells Dylan that he can sense it coursing through the black. Like Dylan can sense the answer. And he tells Dylan, "No, I am Venom, but who are you?" So from there, Dylan then responds that he's Dylan Brock. And Venom's like, "Yeah, you are the son of Eddie Brock, but you know that there's more to it." So he then asks Dylan again, "Who are you?" To where then Dylan's just like, he doesn't know. But then when Dylan steps through this mirror, the Venom symbiote then tells him that he's known this from the beginning. Even from the time that Dylan was in Anne Wang's womb, Dylan has truly known this whole time. And through the course of this, Venom goes on to tell Dylan about how early on Eddie had taught Dylan to run away from who he was most of his life. But at the time, Eddie had done this because he loved Dylan. And from the moment that Eddie found out he had a son, he had just wanted to protect him. But the Venom symbiote goes on to say that turning away from a mirror doesn't let you run away from yourself. So regardless of Eddie trying to protect Dylan, at no point has that changed who Dylan truly is. And Venom goes on to tell Dylan that every time that Dylan bonds with a Clintar, he rips them from the hive, because he can change his symbiote not by thought but by instinct. But then it's also here where we get something that I've been waiting for quite some time. Because it's here where Venom also refers to Dylan as its son, and it tells Dylan how long ago when Dylan was born, it had given him a name. And really with hearing this, it just reminds me about back when we were having our talks around the time of Absolute Carnage, and I may have also said it during King in Black. But for a while now, I've been waiting for the Venom symbiote to refer to Dylan from a parental perspective. And mainly because Dylan didn't come about by your conventional means, but instead with the whole situation of Anne Wang wearing the Venom symbiote and becoming She-Venom, this created a situation to where the Venom symbiote is really like a tertiary parent, and I feel like I've been waiting quite some time for that to at least be acknowledged. But with the Venom symbiote telling Dylan about the name that it had given him at birth, and later on when the symbiote told Eddie he loved it, but it's also here we find out that Eddie feared what that name would mean for Dylan. So he bonded it to a terrible power and hid it deep within the Venom symbiote. And in this moment, as the Venom symbiote tells Dylan to reach in now and find it, it's here where Dylan then starts to pull out the Necro Sword. And as Dylan pulls out the Necro Sword, just outside of the Venom symbiote, we find that the sleeper agent has made his way to the Venom symbiote with Dylan's body. And as they lay him down next to the Venom symbiote, it starts to cover Dylan. And we also hear Dylan come to the realization that Dylan Brock is the name of Eddie's son, but he is not human. And he tells the symbiote, "Venom is your name." But then Dylan says, "I am not Clintar, because I am the broken chain. I know now the truth, the meaning. I am not a cage. I am not an eventuality, but an endless possibility. I am freedom. I am a key, a codex." And it's here where we see Dylan step into the actualization of who he's been this whole time. And it's kind of crazy to see, because a while back in Venom Volume 4, Issue 25, and from there leading into Venom Beyond, we had got a glimpse of the Dylan Brock from a different universe, Earth 1051, who was an older version of Dylan who had fully matured into his power. And at the time, that Dylan we had also seen an earlier version of him who very much resembles Dylan from Earth 616 with the more traditional Venom look and the red symbol on his chest that we had just seen him wearing. But with seeing this, I'm not saying that Dylan's gonna turn evil right off the bat, but with seeing this, it does make me mighty suspicious of what lies ahead for the future of Dylan Brock. Cause like he said, he's not an eventuality, but an endless possibility. And the last time I checked, endless possibilities can go anywhere. And with Eddie changing all these names, and Dylan now changing names, who knows where it's gonna go? Because I've always thought that Codex is really Dylan looking more and more like Knull. And now with the time traveling involved, anything's possible. Which again, takes us back to those endless possibilities. But at this point in time, we really don't know. We just gotta see where it all goes. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so we can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.